What's up, guys? Azim Rakes here. I mentioned something in my VIP video, and don't worry, this is not a VIP video. It's actually a very informative one. Uh, I'm gonna tell you how to watch this video in a sec, but one thing I mentioned in my VIP video was open parlays and why not to do two-team parlays and just thinking why three teams and one team, a single straight-up bets are better, and how to handle these open parlay situations. So it's not going to be a VIP video, although I'll mention it a couple times. But this is going to be a very informative video. Very calculated decisions that we make over here, that I make over here. Why make anything else, anything less than a calculated decision? We want to be profitable in the long run. That's what we do. So, to give you a little insight, in these past 11 days, 1 through 3 unit bets is what we've played, and we've profited 41. We're killing it. That's an absurd run. It's absurd money that's coming in. Um, that's what's just going to happen long term, especially when we have a month like March where every one of our greatest trends, our best of the best trends, downswinged. Well, we're expecting a huge upswing, and that's just kind of what happened. And so we've been cashing a lot of 2, 3 unit plays. In these 11 days, we've made up everything we lost in March plus more. But in this time period, where we've gone on and win 41 units on Twitter and everything, and everybody else has, I kind of screwed up here because I actually went on to make 65, 66 units. And so, and this is because of this new open parlay system or betting method that I use. And so I'm going to release that onto y'all, and my VIP will be able to take full advantage of it. As far as free play guys go, you might be able to take full advantage of it. You might not be, but or you might be able to take advantage of it, but not full. Not into the level that VIP would, just simply because they'll have every trend or every I guess you'll figure it out. You'll understand why. But I'm going to explain this, and that way you could potentially use this on your own bets, your own trends, your own systems, or if you're following somebody else, and they're releasing how confident they are on their trends or their systems or whatever, then you might be able to use it with them. So this is a very informative video. The way you should watch this, first of all, is don't watch it in speed. You know how you go into this right here somewhere there's a settings button. You can go there. You can go playback speed. Increase it to 1.25x, 1.5x. Don't do that. Not on this video. Watch this in its entirety. Watch it thoroughly. If you need to take notes, take notes. But watch it. Let it be regular time, and then come back and watch it. Not necessarily today. I mean, that'd be too redundant. It would not help you retain the information. Come back and watch it tomorrow, or maybe the day after, and then come back and watch it a third time about a week later. And at that point, whenever you watch something about 3 times, you retain the information very, very clearly. It becomes second nature to you almost. But you also don't want to make it so much close that like the time gap so close, or else it's going to get too redundant. And the second or third time you're watching it, you're going to zone out. So take your time, come back when you feel like you need to watch it. But I would suggest watching it 2 or 3 times. Um, that's ideally what you want to be doing with anything informative, anything that you feel is necessary for your to fill in your knowledge gaps. Speaking of knowledge gaps, I mentioned this as well. A lot of guys take advantage of this already. I'm here at y'all's disposal. Free guys, VIP guys, doesn't matter. I'm here at your disposal. Ask me questions. There's no such thing as a good or bad question. There's never in the world has there been a good or bad question. There might be unethical and moral questions, but there's no good or bad questions. The only thing you could do wrong is not ask a question, because if you have a question, it means you have a knowledge gap. And the only thing you could do wrong about it is not fill that knowledge gap in. So ask me those questions. And frankly, it'd be better if you did too for me, because, if you ask me a question and, I don't know the answer, well, then guess what? I have a knowledge gap. So I'll go do the research. I'll go do the work needed to figure it out, or I'll go ask the other, like some of my colleagues and stuff, and see if they have an answer, and I get to learn and get better as with that as well. But I've been since day one when I've gotten into the sports and everything. I've been using the Socrates method, which is essentially answering a question with a question itself. And so for that purpose, I really have gotten this level of knowledge in this realm that I can then, put on to you. So please ask questions, take advantage of that. I mean, I'm here at your disposal. So if you have knowledge gaps, feel free, don't hesitate, DM me, comment them. It doesn't matter. I'm here at your disposal. I'm going to help you out as much as I can. Let's work together, right? So in my video, I mentioned in my VIP video, I mentioned why or I mentioned that two-team parlays were not profitable. And I take that back because they are profitable, but they're less profitable than other parlays. Um, and so I'm gonna get into the theory of it in a sec. But Vegas knows that a lot of guys go with two-team parlays in order to boost odds, right? I mean, that's a very simple way to boost odds. You take a game you like or a spread you like or whatever, and then you put a huge money line team with it. You take like Lightning minus 170 and you put it in there. Now you get better odds, and you're almost expecting Lightning to win or whatever the case may be. But it actually hurts you long term, and because they reduce the odds. Now they reduce or the payout. So they reduce the payout so minusculely, right? I think instead you should be getting like 2.64, something of that nature, 2.6768, something like that. And they either pay out 2.6 or 2.64, one of those. So the odds are very minusculely, reduced. But with two teams, that actually causes a lot of lost return on investment. And so let me share. Well, we'll share in a sec, but it costs you a lot of lost money in the long run. Whereas with other teams, I mean, like let's take a six teamer, right? The odds of hitting a six teamer are 1/2 cubed to the sixth. I think that's 1/64. I'm going to what's cube 2 to the 6, 64, 1/64. I was right. So that means you should get paid out 63 to 1 on a six-team parlay, six-leg parlay. Are you getting paid out 63 to 1? No. And so with certain games or whatever, I believe that's right. I think that's right. With certain games or certain parlays and stuff, we know we're losing value, and we're only taking those bets or whatever because we just feel the desire to, or I don't know why we do it. I really don't. I don't do it. I would not suggest you do it either. Stick to the three teamers, and I'll tell you why. But yeah, I mean, obviously with some of the bigger parlays, we already have the intuition and understanding that, like, yeah, we're getting taken advantage of, but you wouldn't expect it with two teamers. And the fact is, the discrepancy is so minuscule, right, between what the payout should be versus what it is that it's not noticeable. Or for a lot of people, it's not noticeable. In fact, it wasn't noticeable for me for the longest time. And so, that being said, let's share this screen now. And these are just, okay, yeah. Boom. Am I sharing it? There you go. Adjust this. Nope. Coming back. Okay. What is this? This is not all of it. There you go. I don't know why it zoomed that out. So, okay. So let's take a look at this, right? So what does this essentially say? So this is something I got off of. I'm going to give the person who brought this up the respect they deserve. It's some guy off of Reddit, actually, and I forgot to note the name beforehand. I don't want to go in the video and note it. I might link the description of it or the tag of them or later on. But yeah, so what we see right here, right? So let me. So what we see right here. So with one team, we know we need to win. Actually, this should be 52.3%. It's like 52.34. I don't know why it was rounded up to 4, or it might be 52.35, and that's why I was rounded up to 4. But this is essentially 52.3%. That's what this is. So one team we're hitting 52.3% of the time because of that very little discrepancy. Now we're having to hit because essentially what happens, right? We reduce our return on investment whenever we bet these parlays that reduce our odds to our payouts. When they reduce our payouts, we reduce our return on investment. So what this column is essentially saying, this per game win rate is saying, well, okay, we don't want to reduce our return. We don't want to reduce our return. We want to keep our return consistent. We want to keep it constant. So that means we actually have to make up for it in a different area, and that means in our ability to cap, right? So the better we cap, that's just the premise of it. So how better do you need to cap? Well, one game, you only need to hit 52.3%. Now, whenever you, because of the very minuscule reduction of odds, but that still hurts the return on investment. Now, on a two-team parlay, we actually have to hit each leg 52.7% of the time. That point three doesn't seem very difference making, but it is. And the reason it is different. It is a difference maker to us is simply for the fact that we don't want to be taken. We don't want to give up value where we don't have to give up value. So this is why I say stick to the three legs, right? Frankly, even if this number one, if one team straight up plays 52.4, even if it's 52.34 or 35, I know for a fact that three-team parlay is actually uh, per play, it's actually less than a straight up play. So in theory, three-team parlays are better than playing everything straight up. In theory, but I would suggest, because of bankroll management and stuff, that you want to do one. You want to do straight ups, and then you also want to take three-team parlays. But never take two teams. In fact, if you're going to take a two-team, you might as well just jump onto a four-teamer, right? Because you see how much. I mean, even four-teamers we don't get fully taken advantage of. Potentially five-teamers and two-teamers are the best, or equivalent. But yeah, I mean, so this is the premise behind it, right? Don't take two-teamers, but because it's not profitable. But let me tell you why I'm talking about this. Again, in these past 11 days, I've profited about 1.5 times what everybody else has profited, and that's simply because of the fact that I've adopted this new method, where I am taking my best trends in the NBA that are 15% or plus in a return on investment. So that means they're hitting 60% or plus. And then I'm taking hockey and NHL MLB trends that are 10% return on investment plus. And I'm taking these, and when I put my card out for myself, or on this side, I put my card out for myself. I bold these plays. I put them in bold. And whenever the bold happens, or whenever the play is bolded, and that's basically every MLB and NHL play I have for the most part. Whenever a play is bolded, what I do is then I create an open parlay for it. Open parlays, what are those? Well, a parlay is simply, you pick a set amount of teams, three, four, whatever, and you put them together and you say if all four of these hit, then you get paid out a greater amount than you normally would have. An open parlay is you put in one team and you say two open spots, for a three-legger, and you say those two open spots, I'm going to come back in and I'm going to put a play in at my own discretion whenever I want to, and it'll be treated just like a parlay. But not all books offer it. If you don't have a book that offers it, you let me know and I'll find you one that does. But that's essentially what an open parlay is. It's just a parlay, but you get to have the ability to go fill in. There's a couple of benefits to this, right? Because if you're telling me I got to pick four teams, right, or three teams, sorry, I keep saying four, but you tell me I got to go pick three teams ahead of time. How many times have you picked three teams and your first leg has lost and the next two have won? A lot, right? A lot. It's the worst feeling in the world. That's something that open parlays take away, right? Because why do you want to get rid of two free winners, right? So you play that one play first, that one open first leg first, and it loses. Well, you still get two free winners. You don't know they're winners yet, but you'll still be able to parlay them later on. Whether you want to do it two team, I wouldn't suggest it, or you just do parlay them separately again and fill them in as you go along, or create three separate parlays with one of those each in and fill in with later plays in the future, right? But how many times have we picked three legs and then lost the first one and just held a bag of nothing? We don't want to do that. Is it a bag of rocks? I think it's a bag of rocks, not a bag of nothing. Um, how many times has that happened? You don't want to do that. So open parlays allow for this. The beauty of it is they don't discount open parlays. They're treated just like parlays. So just because they give you this added value, right, of not losing our first play and then losing our second two winners on this one play because this first play didn't cash, you in theory would think that they would reduce the odds of an open parlay just simply because there's added value in that. But nope, they're the same payouts as parlays. So there's nothing different. So why not take advantage where we're given an advantage? And so, I go in and I say, hey, look, we're going to put this play in, and then I wait for that play to finish. And if it loses, it loses. If it wins, great. And then I'll come in with the second play and fill it in until that play wins or loses. And if that loses, well, then it loses, great, get it out. If it wins, great. I put it in the third play that I have bolded, and I'll just go in from time to time and just, sort of cycle through and see, okay, well, I haven't bet this one yet in an open parlay, so let me put that in there in an open parlay. And this is, I mean, this is essentially what I'm gonna share the screen again with y'all. Um, to stream right here. So we're coming back here. So this is the first example, right? The Suns minus 13 and a half. I think this was from, I believe, the 10th. I think I took the Suns minus 13 and a half on the 10th. And then I took the Padres money line in the morning of the 11th. And when both of those cash, I took Pittsburgh Penguins on the in the night of the 11th, April 11th. That is. So then this cashes, right? Because I'm just waiting it out. I'm making sure that they're cashing, so I'm not losing a free. And these are 10% return on investment, guys, or at least more than that, right? 10% or more. With NBA, it's 15%. So this is very, very a profitable thing. It's a very profitable method, and it just goes to show how much. I mean, and I'll explain the EV of this in a second. And EV is something you really, really want to get a grasp on. If you're a poker player, you already know what I'm talking about, but you need to get a grasp on EV if you want to be a better. And even if you're a capper watching this, trust me, you want to probably take the notes on EV. Um, Same thing here, right? With Athletics A's, I think I took this on the 10th, or no, 9th. And then I took the Marlins Mets on the 10th. And then I think I took Lightning, yes, on the 10th as well. Yeah, I definitely took them on the 10th as well. So the same little boat. Took this one day before and created the open parlay, and then I had other parlays that I put other plays into, and then I took this and I put this in on the morning, and whenever this cash I came in with this later. So I wasn't losing my winning plays on parlays that were already defunct, right? How horrid would it be that you hit this one, you lose this one, and you hit this one, but you played all three together? Then you just lost this where you could have saved it, because you could have saved the Tampa Bay Lightning play and put it into something else when this would have lost. But because you played it together, I mean, at that point you could still go in and you could play this. But that's why open parlays are better than parlays, because if one of these first two legs cash, then you don't want to lose a third one. And sometimes the third leg will drop anyway. So, but for my third legs, what I usually do is I'll take a big money line play, and I'll just basically like a Lightning money line minus 165, or in the previous one I think it was what was it, Predators minus 170, or Penguins minus 170. Take a NHL or MLB big money line play, and I'll put that in. And so it's almost, once I get the first two legs complete, I'm basically cashing that third more times than not. Now, this is a perfect example. So you see how there's not a third team in here? There's not a third team in here. And I believe the third team in here was supposed to be like Lightning, because I almost put it in here because I thought the Wild were actually going to cover and they let us down. Of course, typical Wild. But I waited for it to go through. I waited for it to win or lose, and they ended up losing. And so I saved that Lightning. I mean, I guess I could have filled the Lightning in once they lost anyways, but it's just more easier that way. You just wait it out. That's just how you should be taking advantage of these open parlays. They're at your advantage, right? It gives you an advantage. Take that added edge. Same thing here. Do you see two other plays that we potentially lost? No, because it's an open parlay. We lost this one. The whole parlay scratch. There's no reason to fill it. So that's just the basic premise of open parlays. Now, why are these so profitable? This is where EV comes in. This is going to be very informative. Cappers, bettors, whatever, pay attention. EV is expected value. And expected value is basically the average amount of money you look to win or gain making a play consistently. So if you're making this, let's take a simple example of heads or tails. If I told you that, we're going to flip a coin, heads or tails, 50-50, right? And every time you win, you get $10. Every time you lose, you pay me $10. Well, what's the EV on that? Well, we flip a coin, you win, I give you 10. You flip a coin, you lose, you give me 10. And this goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So on average, you made $0, right? Or, I mean, in theory, you're going to finish 50-50, and you're going to make $0. So the EV of that is zero. And the way to calculate it is how many times you expect to win times what you expect to win, plus how many times you expect to lose, or it's actually minus how many times you expect to lose plus what you would lose, or times what you would lose, right? So that's essentially the EV calculation. So now how do we incorporate this? Well, let's give another example, right? If every time you were to win a flip, and I told you I would give you $5, and every time you lose a flip, you give me $10. Well, we still know it's 50-50, you're going to win or lose. But when you lose and win, how much you lose and win is different now, right? So whenever you lose $10. Whenever you win $5. So let's go back to our calculation. 50% of the time, you're going to win $5, right? That's 250 in your pockets. Or it's 250 expected gains per flip, coin flip. 50% of the time you look to lose $10. So what is that? Well, you're looking to lose $5 on every expected coin flip, whatever. So 250 minus 5 comes out to minus $2.50. On every coin flip, you expect to lose $2.50. Now you cannot lose $2.50. You can either only lose $5 or make $10. But again, we're speaking in terms of averages. So you're looking on average to lose $2.50. Well, how can we confirm this? Well, let's flip a coin 10 times, right? 5 times you win, 5 times you lose. The times you win $5. So how much did you win in those 5 times total? You won $25. Now the 5 times you lose, you lost $10. How much did you look to lose in that 5 times? $50. So how much did you lose in those 10 flips? $25. How many times did you flip? 10 times, $25 divided by 10, $2.50 per flip is what you lost. What was our EV calculation? Minus 250 per loss. So that's essentially that's what EV is. And you only want to be making calculated high EV decisions. And so that's why these open parlays are so profitable, because now I'm going to get into a calculation that is, we're going to talk about a trend I have in the MLB that is only focuses on minus 230 or more favorites, right? Now, of course, there's added parameters to it. So it's a 10 plus return on investment system. It's added parameters to it, so it's not all minus 230 favorites. So as I'm releasing this video, please don't go on and jump on every minus 230 favorite you see. You're gonna hurt yourself. But this trend, in theory, let's just go with 230, right? So if you're playing something for 230, you should theoretically hit 70% of the time. You should theoretically hit it 70% of the time. But with this trend, with added parameters and things of that nature, we increase the return on investment beyond 10% return on investment, and the trend is actually hitting at 84% of the time. So if we did an open parlay and we only weighted it out and said, hey, we're only going to play whenever this trend says to play a thing, and we're going to put in our open parlay. Well, why don't we do the EV calculation? Let's take that as an example. And before I go into that, I'm going to tell you the last 3 plays, and we haven't had a play on that trend in a while. Last 3 plays were April 2nd, April 3rd, April 4th, Dodgers on all 3. So we go in on April 2nd, we say Dodgers meet our standard to put them in an open parlay, right? They're a bold bet, they're 10% more ROI bet, and they're a good favorite. We're going to put them into a parlay. Right? That's what we do. And then we come in April 3rd and said, well, the Dodgers won April 2nd. Let's just fill them in. And then we come back April 4th and say, well, 2nd and 3rd, they won. We're going to fill them in. And if we lose on the 4th, it's whatever. More times than not, we're going to end up winning. But that's what we say, and we end up winning. And so, but on the 4th, they would have won as well. So we cashed this parlay. I'm going to try to share this screen as well. So I've gone out and I've said on average minus 230, right? Where's the share? Oh, share button. So we are going to, I'm going to show you this. I just went on to Simply Action at Work and I showed you this little thing right here. At minus 230 odds per piece, right, you expect to win 195.36 for a total payout, 295.36 with a bet amount of $100, okay? So this is what we're looking at. We're looking to win 195.36. Okay. And we look to lose $100. Well, we know this trend. I'm gonna close this out. We know this trend. What did I just do? Remove. We know this trend hits 84% of the time. So what does that mean for us? How do we calculate how often do we win the parlay? Well, you simply take 0.84 times 0.84 times 0.84, right? It comes out to 59%, 59.27%. So we're expecting to win 59% of the time, 195.36, and 41% of the time we're looking to lose 100. Now, I don't need to go do this calculation. Why don't I need to do it? It's just intuitive. More times than not, we're winning more than we can lose, and less times than not, we're losing less than we can win. This is very easy to just know this is a high expected value decision, but we're still going to sit here and break it down, right? 59% of the time, 195.36. Let's do that, right? So how do we do this? We go 0.59 times 195.36, because that's what we can expect to win, and we get roughly 115.26. Okay. And then we subtract 41% of the time times 100. You can do this in your calculator, but I know that for a fact to be minus 41. So on average, can I show this somewhere? No, on average, we look to win $74.26 every time we play this. Let's just round up pretty numbers. $75 is essentially what we look to gain every time we do this little parlay. That means in a week, if you manage to do 5 parlays, I mean, obviously this is just one trend, but if you do more or less, if you do it with every other parlay as well, you're looking to gain about zero point 0.6 to zero point 0.8, anywhere in that range units per parlay you do on average. Now, how does that circulate with, or how does that relate to other straight up plays? I say do straight up plays because it helps mitigate the risk, and it actually allows you to mitigate risk and uh, increase your bankroll, as well as allow for you to continue to do these parlays, right? So that's why you should still keep taking straight up plays. But how does this compare to straight up plays? Well, let's take something that's um, uh, well, we could take the same situation, right? We can do the same situation, and we can go 84%. No, let's not do the same situation. Let's go with a better situation. The NBA, 60%. 10% of return on investment would essentially mean in the NBA 57%. But I don't want 57%. I want 60% because NBA is already full of too much variance. So I don't bold plays that aren't 60% or more, and that essentially means I get a 14.6% return on investment on those plays. So NBA bold plays are even better than you know MLB, NHL. But let's go with 60%. So 60% of the time we look to gain 0.91 units, right? And while 40% of the time we look to lose one full unit. So we simply just go 0.61 times. Sorry, point 0.6. 60% of the time we look to gain 0.91 units, and then 14% of the 40% of the time we look to lose 1 unit. So that's again minus zero point 0.4, which roughly comes out to 0.146. One thing I want y'all to consider: what did I say earlier about return on investment? 14.6%. This is an easy way to do return on investment calculations as well. This is a really good method to do return on investment calculations. We get 14.6% return on investment, but we look to gain 0.146 units every time we play a 60% play in the NBA. Long term, that means profits, but we know how to make more profits using open parlays. So that's what we're doing on my end. We're encompassing, and this is something I recently came about. I was sitting here one day just doing random calculations. This is just what you get with me. I love the sports betting realm so much. I love the numbers that go behind it. I just love doing this stuff. So I'll be sitting at my desk sometimes as a free time thing, or sometimes as a hobby thing, where I'm just simply just running calculations, numbers, seeing where we can maximize our profits. So this is something that VIP guys will be full on able to take advantage of. Free play guys, to a degree, you may be able to take an advantage of, because, like I said, I'm only going to give out 1 unit plays, one single 1 unit play a day for the free guys, but those are going to be my best one single 1 unit play. So generally speaking, these are going to be the ones that, if one trend is saying 15% ROI, one unit play, and another trend is saying 9% ROI, 1 unit play, I'm generally going to say I'm realistically going to give out that 15% ROI 1 unit play for free, because I don't want to screw over the free guys. I'm not going to give out 2 or 3 unit plays because people are paying for those. It'd be unethical for me to take those 2 or 3 unit plays and give them out for free. That's what the people are paying for. It'd be unethical of me to do so. But if you were to watch my every free play move or whatever, and you would just open parlay it over 3 days, I mean, you're expecting to win 0.75 units on average every 3 days, which is not the most. But then you also get Friday. You also get Friday. And Friday, again, for those who don't know, is a free full day of Friday. It's free full. It's all day full free plays, full card coming to you. But yeah, I mean, so this is something though that everybody in my VIP will be able to take advantage of, because I will put a star. Obviously, you can't bold on Twitter, so I'll be putting stars next to the plays that meet which is almost every MLB and NHL trend, and then there's certain NBA trends that meet the parameters. But I'll be putting a star to next to the ones that you could open parlay, and at that point, it's your decision if you want to follow me in this realm, if you want to do what I do. But yeah, again, in this time period where everybody's made 40 units, I made 65, 66 units. So it's almost one. It's a little bit over 1.5x. So yeah, I mean, this is a little informative video and everything surrounding that. I did have a question for y'all because this is something I actually just want to ask. That I hope somebody in this audience is a math major or somehow better than me at math on this part, on this aspect. So for those people who are following, Source Dot and I do the 10K challenge. I've had a little issue figuring out this problem. If Source or if Dot and I are winning 70% of the time, and if Source is winning 75% of the time, does that mean does that mean that our best chance to win is 75% because that's what Source's number is, and obviously these are just numbers out of thin air, right? These aren't true numbers. If somebody's hitting 70%, 75%, call the cops because there's a good chance they're scamming you. They're 100% scamming you, unless they're taking like minus 1,000 faves, which in that case, probably are. But yeah, I mean, does that mean we're hitting 75% at best because that's the best capacity, or that's the best, I guess, not system, or maybe system or trend, or in this situation, the best entity. And so does that mean that entity carries the other entities and says, okay, well, since we're hitting at a 75%, that's the best? And the way I think of this is that, if one of us wins, all three of us have to win, right? Because if we're agreeing on a play, if one of us wins, all three of us have to win. So the only way we can all lose is if each and individually, every one of us loses, right? So in theory, that would mean, for me and Dot, that would mean we would lose 30% of the time, and Source would lose 25% of the time. So in theory, that calculation would be, 0.3 times 0.3 times 0.25. So that would be 0.0225% chance. So we're looking at potentially winning, what is that, 97.5% of the time. So is that what that means? Because we were 9-1 in collabs, and that kind of makes sense to me that we're 97.5% wins. I mean, is that what that means? Because the way I see it is a heads tails, but the heads is going to land 70% of the time, 70% of the time, and 75% of the time, and then tails will land the other parts. But in the decision tree of it all, you got two heads, or you got three heads, you got two heads, one tails, you got one head, two tails, and then you got three tails. In the groups of decision trees. Well, if one head is present, then the tails also become head. So it's really just one instance where it's three tails in a row. So in that instance, it's again 0.3 times 0.3 times 0.25. I believe comes out to 0.0225. Let me guarantee that. 0.3. Yeah, 0.0225. So that's 97.75. Yeah. So is that how am I thinking of that correctly? Hit me up if you're a math major, or you know how to do that, or if you're smarter than me in that realm. Hit me up on that, because that's a little difficulty I'm having. It's probably such an easy answer. It's probably such an easy answer, and I'm just like really beating myself up about it. But again, as easy of an answer that might be, there's no good or bad question. I said this at the beginning of this video. I'm going to reiterate that one more time. Ask me questions. Let's get better together, guys. Let's cash together. There's no reason we shouldn't be working together. So help me get better by asking me questions, because if I realize I have a knowledge gap, then I can go fill it, and let me help you get better, But yes, this is what we're going to be targeting a lot in open parlays. I showed you how to do EV calculations. Please take that into consideration when you're betting other people's plays, or even my plays. Take that into consideration. Try to maximize your profits, maximize your value. You can constantly, with my background in poker, this is really what it comes down to, is doing a ton of EV calculations on every aspect of every game, of every play. Everything about it is EV, EV, EV. EV stands for expected value. That's what you expect every time. You might not get it in that moment, but over time, that's what the average will be. You need to find more YouTube videos surrounding expected value. Go ahead and look it up. You'll get a lot of poker players talking to you. This is probably the first time a sports bettor is coming to you and talking to you about expected value. But yeah, hit me up with any more questions you may have and stuff. Again, stay away from two-teamers. Play the three-teamers. If you want to play parlays, straight up suggest find two. try to mitigate the parlay cost with the straight up plays. Play both. I wouldn't ever suggest playing parlays only and playing straight. Maybe I would recommend potentially playing straight ups only. But if you're gonna play parlays, definitely play the straight ups with it. And then open parlays is where you want to be looking because you don't want to lose a winning play because one lost. And especially if you're winning long term, granted, you could lose a second play and then you could have potentially lost a third play too, and you might have saved a losing play rather than a winning play. But if you're winning long term, you don't need to be thinking like that. You need to be thinking as if, what if I put this play in and then the second leg loses and I lose a free winning play on the third one. So use open parlays. They're not discounting them. They're not taking a. I mean, you're being given an advantage. Use it. Hit me up with any questions. Thanks for watching. Hopefully, this has helped you out a lot. And yeah, uh, perfect.